Many of us are slave without even understanding that we are slave. I'm gonna begin this presentation with a question. Here's the question. What explains why you do things? Let me go again. What explains why you do things? That takes me into the topic for today, which is we are conditioned to be slaves. The issue of conditioning did not start yesterday, and Pavlov did some work on classical conditioning years ago. And he establishes that you are able to condition people to learn things. And that is why you can train dogs to do things, you can train monkeys to do things, you can train many animals to do things. I'm not sure if you can train a snake to do anything. Possibly. But you and I could have another discussion about that. But what is for certain is that you can train people to do things. And some people can't seem to understand that the human mind and body is a cognitive social element and tool. It learns from its surrounding, and the surrounding impacts the mind. It learns from the body exposure to the environment, exposed to the social environment, and all that interaction is conditioning you to do what you do without even recognizing it. So it goes back to even love. Persons knowing how to love starts from your mother. That interaction with your mother, in terms of she giving you the breast, smiling with you, playing with you, treating you with compassion, all of that, you are being conditioned to understand and conditioned to learn without even recognizing that you were conditioned from as early as in the womb. Now that takes me now to the issue of being slaves. Slaves means you have accepted a regiment without understanding that you have little or no input in it. And when people all try to break away from that sort of conditional slave mentality, which is classical cognitive conditioning, those persons are always chimed, killed, abused, sidelined, black or white listed, and of course, the ultimate is to kill. It is not yesterday this is happening. This thing has been happening for years. When you go back to slavery, Paul Bogle and George William Gordon in Jamaica tried to do things. What happened to them? They were killed. Let's go to North America, particularly the United States. A number of persons tried to do things that were different from the condition in the state of what is. And they were killed. Martin Luther is one such individual. Malcolm X is another individual. You can take every society, and if you even go to many of the African nations, Gaddafi was killed because he did not stick to the conditioning, the social conditioning that is. Look at what is happening in the world, and you will realize how conditioned you are to being a slave to what you don't even know that you're a slave to. That takes me back to the question, why do you do what you do? A number of the things that you do is not as a result of you, but as a result of your parents that were conditioned. And because your parents was conditioned, it limits your creativity, your thinking, your individuality. And that is why when you have to try to break away from that, because you're no longer conditioned by your parents and the system, they will destroy you. Why do you love what you love? You're not even aware of it. Why do you do what you do? You're not even aware of it. A number of the things are from your ancestors and forefathers who were conditioned to do things. But the world is such that there's always going to be a thorn. And that thorn is an individual who is not going to be subscribing to the social classical conditioning of the system. And when you don't, I'm asking you to think about something. Prepare for death, or to be sidelined or blacklisted or prepared for just to be labeled mad. Because that is another way that you are conditioned to think that difference means what? It is not true. The world is not made up of, and look at the natural world, the physical world. The physical world is not made up of one thing, one tree, one fruit, one apple, one firmament. There are diversification in things. And a number of persons who are classically, socially conditioned do not seem to recognize that diversity does not mean that we are aliens. Diversity means it's a part of a melting pot for us to understand what is. Now, a number of persons might be listening to this and say, but you are rude to say that we are conditioned. And I'm saying we are not rude to be said that we are conditioned. I'm going to play a clip for you to understand how much you are conditioned without knowing that you are conditioned. Here we go.
The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
This is so much of what I'm describing. Classical social conditioning. The system condition you so much that when you see difference or diversity, you think it means what? Oppression. You think it means no new knowledge. You think it means a destruction, when all that could be is leading you to the truth and the escape. The fleas here are so conditioned that when they are given their freedom, you're unable to think. A number of us are so conditioned that even in a world that's allowing you freedom of thought and seeking to give you truth, you are so conditioned that you cannot see the truth. And what you do is to belittle those persons who are coming with a different perspective and who are breaking the condition. People, think about it for a minute. You are born into a world that existed years before you, millions of years before you, where persons do things a particular way. Why do they do it? Let me ask you a question. Why do we say we should not have, or it is illegal if you have sex with someone who is they classify as a minor? I'm going to ask you a question. Why do they say we should not be having sex before marriage? I'm going to go further. Why they say you have to serve God? Why do they say that you have to go to church and pay tithe and offering? I'm going to go further. Why do they say that you have to go to school to make it? Why do they say all these things and we follow them to the T without questioning these things and looking at the reality of it? What is actually going on in our 21st century, particularly as a result of the influx of social media? A number of young persons have now recognized that what they were told is not true. To go to school to make money is not true. To live until you're 80 or to work until you are 65 to enjoy possibly 10 years of your life makes no sense. And they go for it and they are killed by their 20, but they would have lived 20 good years. When the same thing is said for you. You work all your time by the system, the structure. You retire at 65 and you die at 70. So all you'd have done was to have enjoyed 10 good years. And a matter of fact, they won't be 10 good years either, because at that time you'll be sick with all these other ailments. Think about it. Think about how conditioned you are. Think about if you see somebody dressed different from you, how you actually call them names like slut and go and put on clothes. Think how conditioned you are. Think how conditioned you are. That when persons are trying to say to you, listen, where you are going is not the right place, you might say to them, prove to me otherwise. They cannot prove it because the way all things are done is already proof of conditioning. And that is why there's a challenge sometimes. When the individual is different, he is considered or labeled as mad. You know why they label him as mad? To get you to remain in the condition that you are the sensible one going the wrong route without even knowing. Conditioning. I'm asking you to do me something. Stop for a minute and think of how you want to live. Stop for a minute and think whether what they are saying to you makes sense based on the reality of living. Think about it. Ask yourself the question, am I living for a conditioned system? Am I really living? Or am I really stuck in a maze? You are so much conditioned that you're unable to see it. I'm reminding you about this conditioning thing that you're going through without a recognition. A number of persons will actually say, the majority of people are not doing it. And that in itself is an indication of conditioning, and that you have subscribed to the conditioning by using the idea of the majority. Here's the majority for you. Listen again and watch carefully.
Is how generational trauma truly works. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example. This is how generational trauma truly works. The fleas are placed inside the
Generational trauma by conditioning. Let's go again. Generational trauma by conditioning. I'm asking you to do me a favor. Think. Do not subscribe to what the masses say, except it is truth when it has been examined. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel as I continue to provide with trust information for you to use to make a decision. You have been conditioned even in your mother's womb. And you are not living for you. You're living for the system. It is classical conditioning which leads to classical trauma.